What if I told you that your brain can convince you you've already lived a moment that has never happened before? Not yesterday, not years ago, just seconds ago. And yet, it feels so real that you'd be willing to swear you've lived it before. How is that possible? The coffee is still hot. A spoon gently taps against a ceramic cup. Someone nearby laughs. A phone vibrates on the table. The barista calls out a name. Then, without warning, your heart skips a beat. A strange feeling rushes through your mind. You've been here before. Not somewhere similar. Not something familiar. This exact moment. Every word. Every sound. Every movement. It all feels like a memory that shouldn't exist. The feeling lasts only a few seconds. Then, it disappears. Almost as quickly as it came. Leaving behind only one question. What just happened? If you've ever experienced this, you're far from alone. In fact, most people will experience déjà vu at least once in their lifetime. Rich or poor, young or old, no matter where they live. It crosses cultures, languages, and generations. Yet, despite being one of the most common mysteries of the human mind, science still doesn't have one answer that explains every case. For more than 100 years, psychologists, neuroscientists, and brain surgeons have searched for the truth. They've monitored brain activity, studied memory, triggered déjà vu during delicate brain procedures, and uncovered discoveries that challenged everything they thought they knew. Some theories seem convincing, until new evidence proved they couldn't explain every experience. Others sounded almost impossible, yet they refused to disappear. The deeper scientists looked, the stranger the mystery became. Some people believe déjà vu is simply a glitch in the brain. Others think it's a hidden feature of human memory. Some claim it's evidence of parallel universes, or even proof that we've somehow experienced this moment before. But what if every one of those explanations is missing something important? What if the truth is even stranger? Tonight, we'll follow the evidence. We'll examine the experiments, the real-life cases, and the discoveries that have left scientists asking one extraordinary question. Is déjà vu just a trick of the brain, or are we only beginning to understand how memory really works? It happens without warning. You're walking through a building you've never visited, listening to a conversation you've never heard, looking at people you've never met. Then in an instant, everything feels familiar, not simply recognizable. Certain, it's as if your mind whispers, "You've already lived this." Yet, deep down, you know that's impossible. That strange conflict between certainty and logic is what makes déjà vu so unsettling. For most people, the experience lasts only a few seconds. There is no bright flash, no dramatic sound, no warning, just an overwhelming feeling that the present has somehow become the past. Then, as quickly as it arrived, it's gone, leaving only questions. Scientists estimate that around 2/3 of people will experience déjà vu at least once in their lives. It is reported across continents, across cultures, across languages, and across generations. Students experience it, pilots experience it, doctors experience it, scientists experience it. Even people who dedicate their lives to studying the human brain have found themselves asking the same question: why does this feel so real? Interestingly, déjà vu appears to be most common in younger adults. As people grow older, the experience often becomes less frequent. Researchers are still investigating why. Some believe it may be connected to the way younger brains process new experiences and memories. Others think stress, fatigue, or disrupted sleep may make these moments more likely. But none of these ideas explains every case. And that's where the mystery deepens. Because déjà vu isn't just an odd feeling. It has appeared in hospital operating rooms. It has been reported during neurological studies. And in some extraordinary cases, scientists have been able to trigger it during brain procedures. That discovery changed everything researchers thought they knew. But before we step inside those laboratories, we need to understand one remarkable machine, the most complex object ever discovered in the known universe, the human brain. There are roughly 86 billion neurons inside the human brain. Every thought, every memory, every face you've ever recognized, every place you've ever visited, exists because these microscopic cells communicate through trillions of connections. Together, they form the most complex known structure in the universe. Yet, somehow, within this incredible network, a simple mistake lasting only a fraction of a second may be enough to create one of the strangest experiences a human being can have. Déjà vu. For decades, scientists believed the answer had to be hidden somewhere inside the brain's memory system. But where? To find out, researchers began looking at one region more closely than almost any other: the temporal lobe. Located on the sides of your brain, the temporal lobe plays a vital role in processing memories, recognizing faces, understanding language, and helping you distinguish between experiences that are happening now and experiences you've lived before. If anything could explain déjà vu, many scientists believed it would be here. Then something extraordinary happened. During certain brain surgeries performed while patients remained awake, doctors gently stimulated small areas of the temporal lobe using tiny electrical currents. The goal wasn't to create strange experiences. It was to map important brain functions and protect them during surgery. But as the electrical stimulation reached specific areas, some patients suddenly interrupted the procedure. I've experienced this before. This has already happened. I know exactly what's about to happen. For just a few seconds, the operating room itself felt strangely familiar. The sensation disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Those moments provided one of the strongest clues scientists had ever found. Some forms of déjà vu could be triggered by temporarily disrupting the brain's memory circuits. But there was a problem. Not everyone experienced it. Even among those who did, the feeling wasn't always the same. Some described a vague familiarity. Others experienced an overwhelming certainty. A few reported vivid emotional memories that they couldn't explain. If the temporal lobe was responsible, why were the experiences so different? As researchers continued investigating, they discovered that memory itself might not work the way most people imagine. You probably think memory is like opening a perfectly organized file cabinet. Take out the memory, look at it, put it back. But that's not how the brain works. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds that memory, piece by piece, moment by moment. And sometimes that reconstruction isn't perfect, which raises an unsettling possibility. What if déjà vu isn't your memory replaying the past, but your brain accidentally labeling the present as something you've already experienced? If that's true, then one of the most familiar feelings in human life may actually be the result of one of the smallest timing errors your brain can make. And that idea would lead scientists to one of the most influential theories ever proposed, the dual processing theory. But will it finally solve the mystery, or create even more questions? If you've ever accidentally sent the same message twice, you'll understand the first theory. Imagine your brain processing the exact same moment, not once, but twice. The first signal arrives so quickly that you're not consciously aware of it. A fraction of a second later, the second signal reaches your awareness. To your brain, the information now feels strangely familiar, not because you've experienced it before, but because your brain has already processed it once, just milliseconds earlier. Scientists call this idea the dual processing theory. It's one of the most influential explanations ever proposed for déjà vu, and in laboratory settings, it explains many cases remarkably well, but not all of them. Then researchers proposed another possibility. What if déjà vu isn't caused by processing information twice, but by mistaking familiarity for memory? Every second of your life, your brain compares what you're seeing with millions of stored memories. Most of this happens automatically. You never notice it. Sometimes, a new place may share tiny details with somewhere you've forgotten. The shape of a hallway, the angle of a window, the sound of footsteps, the smell of fresh coffee. Individually, these details mean very little. Together, they create a powerful sense of familiarity. Your conscious mind can't identify the original memory, but another part of your brain recognizes a pattern. The result? A moment that feels uncannily familiar, even though you've never actually been there before. Researchers often refer to this as the familiarity-based theory. Then came an even more surprising discovery. Some neuroscientists suggested that déjà vu might not begin with memory at all. It might begin with attention. Imagine walking through a room while distracted. Your brain briefly notices the environment, but you don't consciously pay attention. A second later, you look again. Now you're fully aware of your surroundings. Because your brain processed a scene once before, even unconsciously, the second look can create a powerful illusion of familiarity, almost as if reality itself has repeated. This explanation became known as the divided attention theory, and once again, experiments showed that it could explain some experiences, but not every one. By now, a pattern had begun to emerge. Every theory solved part of the puzzle. None solved all of it. Some explain why déjà vu happens in healthy people. Others explain why it appears during certain brain disorders. Some matched laboratory experiments. Others matched real-life experiences. Each discovery answered one question, only to uncover another. Then scientists encountered cases that challenged every theory they had developed. People who experienced déjà vu repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times a day. People who became convinced they had already lived entire conversations, entire meals, even entire days. These extraordinary cases forced researchers to ask an unsettling question. What if déjà vu isn't one phenomenon at all? What if the same mysterious feeling can be produced by several completely different processes inside the brain? If that's true, then the greatest challenge isn't explaining déjà vu. It's explaining why so many different paths can lead to exactly the same experience. And that's where our investigation takes an unexpected turn, because somewhere there are people living with déjà vu so intense, it has completely changed their lives. For most of us, déjà vu is little more than a passing moment, a strange feeling that appears, then disappears. We mention it to a friend, we laugh about it, and we move on. But for a small number of people, it never truly goes away. In hospitals around the world, neurologists have documented rare cases in which people experience déjà vu again, and again, and again, sometimes several times a day, sometimes so often that it begins to reshape the way they experience reality itself. One man described sitting down for breakfast, certain he had already eaten the exact same meal. Another became convinced he had already watched television programs that had never aired before. Everyday life became exhausting, not because the memories were real, but because they felt real. Doctors soon noticed something unexpected. Many of these unusual cases involved people with disorders affecting the temporal lobe, the same region of the brain scientists had already linked to memory and recognition. In some patients with temporal lobe epilepsy, episodes of déjà vu can occur just before a seizure begins. To neurologists, these moments became valuable clues. They suggested that tiny bursts of abnormal electrical activity inside the brain could temporarily distort the feeling of familiarity. But even this discovery came with an important limitation. Most people who experience déjà vu are perfectly healthy. They never develop epilepsy. They never experience seizures, which means these medical cases explain only one part of a much larger mystery. Then researchers encountered a case that challenged almost everything they believed. An elderly man began experiencing powerful déjà vu almost constantly. He insisted he had already lived through ordinary daily events. He stopped watching the news because he believed he had already seen every report. He avoided reading newspapers because he was convinced he already knew every story. To him, the future felt like the past. Detailed medical examinations revealed no evidence that he was inventing these experiences. His brain was creating an overwhelming feeling of familiarity that logic alone could not erase. Cases like this remind scientists of something profoundly important. The feeling of certainty and actual memory are not always the same thing. That realization changed the direction of research. Instead of asking, why do people remember things that never happened? Scientists began asking, how does the brain create the feeling of knowing in the first place? Because perhaps déjà vu isn't really a problem with memory. Perhaps it's a problem with familiarity. A tiny signal generated deep inside the brain, quietly whispering, you've experienced this before, even when you haven't. Today, researchers continue searching for answers, using high-resolution brain imaging, artificial intelligence, and increasingly sophisticated neuroscience. Each new discovery reveals another piece of the puzzle. yet the complete picture remains frustratingly out of reach. Perhaps because déjà vu isn't caused by a single mechanism. Perhaps several different processes all lead to the same mysterious feeling. And if that's true, the greatest mystery isn't whether déjà vu exists. It's what this extraordinary experience reveals about the remarkable machine inside every human skull. Because to understand déjà vu, we may first have to understand something even more mysterious, memory itself. For centuries, the human brain has remained one of science's greatest frontiers. We've landed spacecraft on distant worlds, mapped the human genome, built machines capable of performing billions of calculations every second. Yet the 3-pound organ inside every human skull continues to challenge some of our brightest minds. And déjà vu is a perfect example. Today, scientists are investigating déjà vu using technologies that previous generations could scarcely imagine. High-resolution brain imaging allows researchers to observe the brain with astonishing detail. Every second, millions of neurons exchange electrical signals. Entire networks activate, then fall silent, all in the blink of an eye. Some researchers believe that hidden within these intricate patterns lies the answer to one of humanity's oldest psychological mysteries. Artificial intelligence is now opening entirely new possibilities. Instead of examining thousands of brain scans by hand, researchers can train AI systems to detect subtle patterns that might otherwise remain invisible. These systems don't solve the mystery by themselves, but they can reveal relationships too complex for the human eye to notice. Patterns, connections, and tiny changes in brain activity that may help explain why one person experiences déjà vu while another never does. Scientists are also exploring an even deeper question. What if déjà vu isn't caused by a single brain region? What if it emerges from several memory systems working together? Modern neuroscience increasingly suggests that memory isn't stored in one location like files inside a cabinet. Instead, it is created through vast networks communicating continuously across the brain. Recognition, attention, emotion, expectation, experience. Each contributes a small piece. Perhaps déjà vu appears only when several of those systems briefly fall out of perfect synchronization. To test these ideas, researchers continue designing increasingly sophisticated experiments. Volunteers participate in virtual reality environments where scientists carefully manipulate familiarity. Advanced brain recordings monitor electrical activity, measured in thousandths of a second. Computer models attempt to recreate how memories are formed, retrieved, and sometimes misidentified. Each experiment adds another clue, yet none has produced a final answer. That uncertainty isn't a weakness of science. It's one of its greatest strengths. Science doesn't stop asking questions simply because an answer is incomplete. It keeps testing, keeps measuring, keeps challenging its own conclusions. Every discovery becomes a starting point for the next investigation. And that's exactly where the mystery of déjà vu stands today. Not solved, not abandoned, but actively explored by researchers around the world. Perhaps one day, a new experiment, a breakthrough in neuroscience, or an unexpected discovery made by artificial intelligence will finally explain why the human mind sometimes mistakes the present for the past. But until that day arrives, déjà vu remains one of the most fascinating reminders that our understanding of the brain is still incomplete. And maybe that's what makes it so extraordinary, because every unanswered question is also an invitation to keep exploring, to keep wondering, and to keep searching for the truth. Which brings us to one final question. After everything we discovered, what can we honestly say about déjà vu today? So, after more than a century of research, thousands of scientific papers, countless laboratory experiments, and remarkable advances in neuroscience, what can we honestly say about déjà vu? The answer is both satisfying and humbling. Today, scientists agree on several important facts. Déjà vu is a genuine psychological experience. It is remarkably common. It can occur in completely healthy people. It can also occur in certain neurological conditions, including some forms of temporal lobe epilepsy. And evidence strongly suggests that the experience is connected to the brain systems for memory, familiarity, and recognition. These are not guesses. They are supported by decades of careful scientific investigation. But the biggest question remains. Why does the brain sometimes produce such an overwhelming feeling of familiarity, even when a moment is happening for the very first time? No single explanation has answered that question completely. Some experiences fit the dual processing theory. Others are better explained by familiarity-based recognition. Some appear linked to divided attention. Others emerge during unusual patterns of brain activity. Each theory explains part of the mystery. None explains every experience. And perhaps that's exactly what scientists should expect, because the human brain is not a simple machine. It is an intricate network of billions of neurons, constantly predicting, comparing, reconstructing, and interpreting reality. A tiny change in timing, a subtle shift in attention, or a brief signal deep within the brain may be enough to create one of the strangest sensations we can experience. Perhaps déjà vu isn't evidence that reality is repeated. Perhaps it isn't proof of parallel universes. And perhaps it isn't a glimpse into a past life. Instead, it may be something even more remarkable, a reminder that the human brain is so astonishingly complex that it can occasionally create an experience powerful enough to convince us that the impossible has happened, not because reality changed, but because perception is one of the greatest mysteries science continues to explore. Every discovery we've discussed today points toward the same conclusion. The more we learn about the brain, the more we realize how much remains unknown. That isn't a failure of science. It's what drives science forward. Every unanswered question becomes the beginning of the next investigation. Every mystery invites another discovery, and every discovery reveals a deeper layer of understanding. The next time you experience déjà vu, you may still pause for just a few seconds. You may still wonder why everything feels strangely familiar, but perhaps you'll see that moment differently, not as something to fear, not as proof of the supernatural, but as a quiet reminder that your brain is performing one of the most extraordinary acts in nature. Try and make sense of an unimaginably complex world, one moment at a time. And maybe the greatest mystery was never déjà vu itself. Maybe the greatest mystery has always been the human mind, because somewhere inside those 86 billion neurons, hidden among trillions of connections, lies the answer. We simply haven't found it. Thank you for watching till the end. Kindly subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications for more educative facts.